Hello, everyone, and welcome to the first episode of Amateur Hour. I'm here with my co-host today, Sesko. How you doing?
I'm fantastic, Tyler. Thank you for having me.
Great. So it's our first episode, people. We're diving straight into it, though, because this weekend we have Daniel Cormier versus Stipe Miocic, possibly for the greatest heavyweight of all time. What are your thoughts? Do you think this is the fight for the greatest of all time, or do you think it's only the greatest of our era?
No, I think like to be fair, for a lot of reasons, the era of mixed martial arts isn't very long to begin with.
That's fair.
So we
So
have
actually, we have 30 years. 30 years. So what? That would be like football in the 90s is where we're
right
at.
where we're comparing to. So I would say, like my personal opinion, I think it is for the best ever. And I think I don't know, maybe I'm biased to the heavyweight because I'm a big fella, but I think if you're the best heavyweight, you're just the general best fighter ever. That's why divide it into weight classes otherwise, right?
Exactly. Like if you're 185 pounds and you could beat the heavyweight, why are you not in the heavyweight division?
Yeah. Prove yourself.
And then you got guys like Daniel Cormier, who's literally he's 5'10". You can't convince me a guy that's 5'10" is naturally built for the heavyweight division. It just doesn't.
But he's amazing at it.
Absolutely. He's as wide as a truck too, but he's got a little belly. Like him cutting down to 205, he's still not absolutely jacked. So it just tells you like the kind of athlete you have to be in the heavyweight division, especially someone that's only as small as Cormier is. And he's only lost to Stipe and Jones.
Right.
Which is crazy.
And especially in the heavyweight division, his only loss came to Stipe, which I think I don't know. I think he came from kind of like a weird lazy run. He was coming off that like beat down of Derek Lewis, I think. And the entire time Stipe was away training, keep that in mind. Like Stipe was gone for a good long time after he lost.
Mm-hmm.
Come back from that that knockout.
I love Stipe, but after watching these past two fights, like it just seems like Cormier's kind of got his number. If Cormier doesn't slow down, get tired, and gives up body shots, the one concern I have is I feel like fighters as they get older, even if they're born and bred wrestlers, they give up on wrestling because it's so much harder. It's so much more taxing on their body. They're not able to do what they used to do. And then I'll hear the commentators go, why isn't he taking him to the ground or whatever? But physically, if you're 42 and you have, since you were 15, been training for the Olympics and just have been fighting your whole life, what are the odds you're still a commanding wrestler like you used to have been? Maybe I think that's why he adopted a lot of like the striking. And he says, oh, I should have listened to my coaches, but I don't know, man. Do you think he's still good at wrestling?
So I think he is, but to your point, it's extremely taxing, and that comes into play when you're doing a 5-round fight against the guy who's had the most title defenses ever in UFC history, the heavyweight division anyway.
Yeah.
I think Stipe, to me, I think Stipe is one of the best ever because I feel like he's completely not completely, but very well-rounded. He beats people on the ground. He beats them standing up. You look at his past victories, he's done a lot of interesting things to a lot of really good opponents. Mm-hmm. Keep in mind, he's the only person to have beaten Francis Ngannou, I'm pretty sure.
And he's sorry.
No, I was saying that's no small feat. Francis wins his fights in 14 seconds normally.
It seems like he's also an underdog in almost every fight he has.
Yeah,
every fight.
Wild, right? Yeah.
It is wild.
Maybe that works to him psychologically because he's got that workhorse blue collar mentality. He's whatever comes forward, I'm going to handle it.
Yeah, he's the day after the heavyweight championship, go back to clean toilets in the firehouse.
Yeah.
He doesn't give a fuck.
Yeah.
He even doesn't give a fuck.
So I think the underdog and the hate kind of help a guy like that. Similar to Michael Jordan. How Michael Jordan wrote down and remembered every single person who ever wronged him in his life.
Oh yeah.
Use that as fuel,
Yeah, it's true. No, it's crazy. The first knockout I ever saw Stipe, I forgot who he was against, but he was backing up and he knocks the guy moving backwards and KOs him. And when I saw that,
flat lines on his face, yeah.
And he was down 15 pounds from this guy. I think it was Verdum. Mm-hmm. I think it just flattened him, and it was just. You're right. He's such a dynamic heavyweight. So specifically going into this weekend, though, how do you think the fight plays out? So obviously, for those who don't know, the first fight, Cormier ended up with a KO in the first round. Stipe said if he had seen this punch, he would have clenched his chin, not got knocked out. And to be fair, in the second fight, when he got hit by the same punch, he didn't get knocked out. So that could have been true. The second fight, Cormier is basically winning three rounds. They go into the fourth round, and about a minute or two into that round, Stipe goes for some gut shots, starts going for the belly. And then Daniel Cormier just crumbles. But before then, he was pretty much dominating the entire fight.
Yeah, with that like short man dirty boxing with his hands up, which is probably why the body shots are so efficient at a certain, to a certain degree.
Well, I wonder how do you think he's going to plan to counter the body shots? Because obviously he's going to know they're coming, but obviously Stipe knows that Cormier knows he has to do something about it.
I think it's going to come down to a degree of training because remember, like after DC beat Stipe pretty easily his first fight, and whether that's for like due to damage he faced from Francis before that or whatever was going on, he had a pretty easy cruise into like the heavyweight championship relatively, right? And then he had Derek Lewis, which like no offense to Derek Lewis, I think he's done a lot. He's shown a lot of improvement in his last fights, but Daniel just steamrolled him when they fought.
Oh, so
And
yeah, if we could just comment, that last fight was crazy. I thought he did so well.
Yeah. I think like since losing to DC, and he says he's facing a back injury, and I don't know if he got surgery or if he got some like physical therapy or something. He looks insanely athletic.
Yeah.
He's throwing head kicks and flying knees, all sorts of like really vicious things you don't see from like probably a 280 pounder for being.
And on the ground, he was so commanding. He absolutely knew what he was doing. He knew which positions he could take advantage of, and he just didn't give up any ground. And I was really surprised and really happy to see that because it almost seems like he's the fighter that kind of doesn't give a shit. And that's his persona, which is cool. But obviously he does. Obviously he trained hard. I think he said he wasn't as prepared for this fight because of COVID, but he also said he was in the best shape of his life. And
he looked amazing.
It seems like he's only on an upward trend.
Yeah. I think like you have to take all of Derek Lewis's words with some level of like like how much of it's marketing, how much is it real? Because he's absolutely.
I got to take a shit. Like that's the thing is that was totally planned, but like people eat it up. People eat it up. It doesn't matter. Like that's how he's gonna build his brand.
But he's evolved as a fighter significantly since like every fight we've seen. I remember I can't remember who he beat a couple fights ago, but he threw a head kick, and I remember like that blowing my mind. Seeing such a large man do that, especially Derek Lewis.
And he started this fight with a head kick. He walked up straight, kicks him in the head.
He could have won with that, quite frankly.
I know.
Who knows, right?
Sorry.
I think his fight with DC, like rewinding back to that, I think he was facing back injuries. He wasn't really ready to face a grappler with that kind of pedigree as DC, and DC kind of steamrolled him. So I think like maybe there's a level of hubris that like softened DC up against when he fought Stipe the second time. That's why I think the body shots might have been just lack of like physical conditioning and hardening of the body at some degree, right?
So it was a really good adaptation. But what can Cormier, as the shorter fighter, how do you defend against that? You can't really have the style of putting out your hands and pawing the guy and trying to go for swipe and then punch because he has more range than you and obviously can just go to the body. So what do you do to counter that?
Well, the thing is, he won't be able to do that like the hands up dirty boxing he was doing for most of the second fight if he wants to keep that safe. Maybe you have to do something like what Kelvin Gastelum did to Israel Adesanya. You have to like rush in and engage and punch like with your head down if you plan on like engaging the taller, longer fighter like that and trying to keep yourself safe. I think honestly I think he's done a significant amount more like physical conditioning training and all sorts of stuff in this like this last training camp. Because keep in mind, he hasn't fought since Stipe, and that was like a year ago. They've both been training for a good long time for this. I think his body's like physically, his torso is going to be in a better shape, and he's just going to be able to take those hits better.
So I saw in an interview, he said like he was so determined to make this, like he absolutely has to win this for his legacy, for everything. But he said that he almost went too hard. Like he almost overtrained to a point where his body can't recover like it used to, and he might have gone overboard. And if that's true, that could be a huge problem. But then on the other hand, you have Stipe, who's also been through countless championship heavyweight fights. That dude's even in the Francis fight, in the first round, he had his head popped back like drastically. He if he was not anyone else, if he was a lot of other guys, they would have been KO'd right then and there.
Absolutely.
They're both going in like beaten and battered a little bit. Stipe's a little younger, but they're both kind of the old men of the division.
Right, certainly. But they've had a good long time since their last fight. I think Stipe got some like interesting injuries from that fight too. Remember Daniel's poking him in the eye a lot.
My God, here's the thing. The problem I have with MMA in general is the fact that you're allowed to do one illegal thing, get away with it. And that one illegal thing, a lot of the time, just alters the entire fight. I've seen people being kicked in the cup and then a minute later they get KO'd.
Yeah, or eye pokes. Eye pokes, absolutely.
And you call into question the whole fight, because this is also what happened when Daniel Cormier knocked out Stipe the first time. He poked him in the eye, and not a minute later, he knocks him out with a punch he didn't see. And Stipe doesn't complain, but he very well could have gone, look, the guy illegally did something and caused himself to win the fight. Like, that's a joke.
Yeah. I mean, a similar thing happened to let me look. It was in this like last weekend. It was the I can't remember which one of the fighters. I think, let me see on the main card. One of them was he just missed weight. He was just like, it was Beneil Dariush, I think. He just came in like 5 pounds over, said, fuck it, I'm not cutting like the other 5 pounds. The guy, like, because of company pressures, took the fight, and he got smashed. So I think, like, even on the come up, like, you know, like, yeah, sure, you missed weight, but that's not like an asterisk on your record. You're still like, you know, want to know that fight if that guy took it.
And if you look at the win bonus, I think you still make good money. You're not making the full money you would have made if you missed weight, but if you win and don't lose, you're still making a pretty decent sized purse.
Yeah, yeah.
So it's worth
it. I think Beneil Dariush agreed to, or at least in his post fight, he said he'd give his fighter knockout of the night bonus if he got one to the guy he beat as like a, you know, I guess thanks for taking this fight while I'm too big and letting me beat your ass. Like, that's what it seems like.
Yeah, yeah. And then
it seems like.
Go ahead. Well, I was just gonna transition to Khabib 2.0 and the fact that the dude fights in just 2 divisions and doesn't give a fuck. And
that's a real champion.
Yeah, so he's been hit twice and that has like 130, 150 strikes against other people so far.
Yeah, his last fight I watched, he just crumpled the guy. He took him to the ground and just got on top of him. I remember it was like 2 minutes in, it was 44 strikes to nothing back.
What's his name again? Do you know?
Let me see. Let me make sure I get it right. Khamzat Chimaev.
Yes, he's smash. He's smash good.
He smash everyone, brother.
And I love how he says brother at the end. He's just like Khabib.
He's a pretty nice dude, it seems, right?
Oh, yeah.
Like, a lot of these Russian Muslims like seem to be, right?
Well, I mean, if you spend your entire life just beating the shit out of people, what do you have to be like anxious about? Like, I mean,
have you heard his post-fight interview? So
no.
He's from Chechnya, which is like a war zone in southern Russia, pretty much.
Oh my God, yeah.
He goes, yeah, I fight every day to live, brother. Now I fight for money. I was like,
this is great. I smash for money.
And he made a good bit of money at Fight Island, like, yeah, winning 2 fights in 10 days.
And Khabib really opened the door for these guys because, like, that shtick works so well. Like, I don't think he would have popped off as hard as he did if it weren't for Khabib.
Dude, Khabib did so much for, like Southern Mountain Russian athletes or whatever, because after him, like, you see all of his cousins, all of his brothers, whenever they do an UFC in Russia, it's all them.
I bet
really impressive fighters.
I bet the infrastructure is just building up too. Like they have training grounds there, but I can imagine with money coming in now, can you fathom like the kind of great athletes we're going to see in the future from like Dagestan?
Yeah, and not only like money from the athletes. Like Khabib certainly putting a lot of his own money and support into building like gyms and stuff for his like father's wrestling school. But like think about like the Russian government and the Russian like people who love that kind of like positive attention to their country. Like he's got political allies that are willing to back this. Like
totally, it's a patriotism thing.
Right, absolutely, and he can bring that into it. I think it's beautiful. They send like the best athletes, whether they're good, like rich or poor, to go like run into mountains with Khabib.
It's like Fedor. Fedor has like huge political influence because the dude was a legend. Same with Khabib.
Absolutely, and I think. Man, I'm excited, like, going back to Khabib 2.0. I think, let me make sure I get his name right. I always almost mess it up. Yeah. I think Khamzat's, like, he's one of those fighters. I just want to see him fight more, you know?
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
It's hard to tell from smashing two opponents in 2 weight classes, whether he was just crushing cans or –
I want to see some, like, top 10. Just throw him in there because he looks like he looks like he could take it. It's not going to be a blowout regardless, so.
Yeah, I think he's earned it's hard to say, again, with 2 fights. But I think he certainly, like, warranted a fight with, like, a gatekeeper or someone.
All right. Well, how about we talk about some of the other cards? So we could talk about Sean O'Malley, and then we'll hop into the Junior Dos Santos and Rosenstruck. So we'll start with Sean O'Malley, who's like this guy's got so much swagger, and he's set himself up with such a good brand that like I actually don't know how good of a fighter he is. He's such a good promoter, like Conor McGregor was. He's really good at getting his name out there, and obviously some of his KOs are crazy. He punches and then just walks away, and he's done that multiple times.
Yeah, and including his last fight, it was an outstanding knockout.
Yeah, so do you think this guy's like a top 5 fighter in the 135?
I mean, it's hard to say. It's also hard to like deny him like a good challenger now. You know, he smashed everyone he's gone up against, like without too much issue either. You know,
Yeah.
He's really young. I think he's only like 23, maybe.
Dude, he's got rainbow hair. He smokes weed all the time. If he gets
Yeah,
busted for weed after a fight,
I think like this could be wrong. I think I was listening to a podcast with the Nowitzki guy, the guy who runs USADA for the UFC. He said that they made a new exception for Nate Diaz. So after you get piss tested before and after the fight.
Mhm.
So after you do the second piss test, you're free to smoke. They leave you alone there.
Nice.
So that's why they can like light up after fights and smoke during press interviews and shit.
I don't get how it's a performance enhancer, really. Like, I don't understand the logic of this, but
it could just be like a cultural, a cultural stigma against something that doesn't really make sense. Yeah.
These commissions are a little too slow. Like, we still have boxing judging, which it just makes no sense. Boxing judging in MMA.
Like, I feel like it's because boxing and all the like combat sport used to all just be run by the mafia. Shit moves slow, right?
That's funny. Yeah, it probably still is, dude. I mean, who do you think inherited what they have today?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
So
I think Sean O'Malley's going to be real interesting. I know like Marlon Vera's good. I can't. None of his fights right now are too memorable to me, but I haven't gone back and looked in a while. I've only seen a lot of Sean recently.
Mhm.
For the company, I think the UFC should and I think they have been lean into Sean O'Malley. I think he's a great name, a great personality, a great image. Apparently, his merch sells out instantly when they put up new stuff.
Yeah,
and that's what you want. That's a company man right there.
And he's young too. So let's go. Something I wanted to talk about: the Rosenstrike Junior Dos Santos matchup. So didn't both these guys face Francis in their last fight, or no? Am I wrong?
Let me look up Junior Dos Santos' record real quick. So Junior Dos Santos, his last fight, he lost to Curtis Blades.
Oh, okay.
Before that, he lost to Francis Ngannou. So he's on a two fight streak. But before that, he beat Derek Lewis. But again, that was old Derek Lewis. New Derek Lewis is a new thing, it seems.
Yeah. So Rosenstrike, it's really interesting. So this dude, he was undefeated before facing Francis and lost in 20 seconds.
Yeah,
got straight up. This guy, by the way, is a world champion kickboxer who trains in the same gym as Israel Adesanya right now. This guy, he's legit, and he got steamrolled by a guy that was just swinging his arm.
Yeah. No technique, nothing, just hammering.
No. And before the fight, Francis was like, "I want to show everyone my technique this fight." Like, I don't know if it's a mind game or he's like, "I just got to stick with my bread and butter," but I kind of love it. Do you think mindset-wise, is it easy for a guy like Rosenstrike to come back from that? Because the dude's a world champion, gets into the biggest fight of his life. He's like, I'm going to show everyone what I have. And in 20 seconds, he just gets KO'd. The fight before then, he had KO'd Overeem in the last
like a kind of weird ending with the injury.
He was losing the fight. Overeem fought a good fight. Last 5 seconds, Overeem was running away. He's like, I won the fight. This dude straight breaks his lip in half and then knocks him out.
Overeem, who, by the way, recovers from injury better than anyone I've ever seen. When Francis when Francis knocked him out, I thought he died. I thought we saw the first UFC fatality.
His soul
talked about it. It's like, we got to go back to the chalkboard, guys. We're going to go back. We're going to learn. We're going to adjust. I was like, what the hell?
Yeah.
What is Alistair up to, man? Steroids made him invincible.
Yeah. Yeah, but Junior Dos Santos, he's absolutely had a great career, but we're definitely on the second half of that career.
Also, keep in mind, the peak of his career was before USADA, and he did get popped.
He did, okay.
So
he says he's trimming down for this fight to come in faster, but I mean, how much faster can you get at his age? It's just,
So his pedigree is boxing, I think.
It is boxing. Yeah. I'm not too hopeful on him. I'm excited to see it, but he hasn't impressed me lately.
So personally, I also think Rosenstrike's the guy for this fight. I think kickboxing beats regular traditional boxing, particularly in the MMA battlefield. Mm-hmm. He's got a lot of interesting moves. He's got, I think, he's 32 years old. Junior Dos Santos is 36, so 4 years down. And again, it's the confidence thing. So he did get hammered by Francis, but man, who hasn't, right? How much can that really hurt your ego? Yeah. And he managed to pull out a win against Alistair, which is a huge name. So I think he's got I don't think his confidence is shaken enough to where it's going to compromise him against Junior. I think I'm going to give how do you say his first name? Yarinzo Rosenstruck the nod.
Yeah, I just say Rosenstrike. I'm like, all right.
It's such a crazy name.
It is such. I mean, so many of these fighters have crazy names. They're from all over the place. What like if you're an American fighter, you must be scared out of your mind thinking about those like Nigerians and like random like people that have been shoveling shit their whole life just pop out, just tap you, and your whole career is just over.
That's what happened. They shipped Francis here from Libya, and he's just been smashing since.
He was illegal in France. I heard he was living in the woods for a while. How many dude? How many Francises are currently living in the woods, going, "I'm going to become heavyweight champion one day"?
Yeah, you're a Rosenstruck walking around, all proud, all big, come across this giant bum that beats you up.
Yeah. No training, he swings his arms.
He doesn't throw a single kick or do a single takedown in practice, I imagine.
What's crazy about Francis is he'll hit you with the last inch of his punch. Like he won't even, most of it won't hit. And the person their legs collapse. And it happens to every single person he hits, except for Stipe, the one time he did get hit. But I guess if Stipe fights him again, there's a big chance he loses.
I think... So Francis is one of those awful opponents because every single time you fight him, you're gonna get worse because you're gonna carry the damage from the first time you fought him.
Absolutely.
Like no one's gone 3 rounds with him, but like I can't imagine how that would feel.
Stipe went 5 rounds, but it was.
Oh, did Stipe take him to? I thought Stipe finished him, didn't he? Or was I wrong about that?
No, he didn't. Because I remember at the end of the fight, they were basically hugging each other in the corner, and Stipe raised his hand. So I'm pretty sure it's 5 rounds. And Ngannou's gonna get tired, dude. Like,
yeah, what's the decision? You're right. Yeah.
He has so many fast twitch muscle fibers that the dude's gonna get tired. It's like Yoel Romero. He's jacked. The dude can't go 20. He can't go the whole time. He has to pace it and then explode. And Francis doesn't really pace very well. He seems to explode a lot. So if you can get him to the later rounds, I could see you doing very well. But who but Stipe's can get him there?
Exactly. Like you almost think about the loss of potential. Like, what if he actually had some what if he wasn't living in the French woods for a good chunk of his life? What if he was in the gym since a kid training?
No. Here, I have the opposite point of view. I think if you want to be an MMA fighter, you should hope you're born in the sand dunes and just taking sand up, and then hopefully one day you get on a boat and the boat doesn't get lost, and then you're the heavyweight champion. Like the amount of drive that he had to have a better life, like. It's hard to convince me he would have the same drive if he were just born comfortably, had a gym. Maybe if he was like a Khabib, where it's you train, but it's also hardcore. There's a war and shit. But in America, we're too comfortable.
Like a father or something, right?
We're too comfortable here. Like it's hard to be a great athlete in the world we live in because it's just life's too easy.
I mean, let's look at the current UFC champions and see how many of them come from.
At least 2 are Nigerian.
Yeah, 2 are Nigerian. All right, let's see. The list of current champions. So you have Stipe, who's an American, but he's a Croatian Croatian immigrants, right?
And then he does the Irish dance when he wins.
To me, the moment I saw that day, it's like, oh man, dude, he's lost it. The brain dance.
Oh yeah, he's absolutely lost
it. That's a CTE jig right there.
Yeah, but it was well done. Like, didn't miss a step.
So then you have John Jones, fully American.
Mm-hmm.
Israel Adesanya and Kamaru Usman, Nigerians. You got Khabib from Nigeria.
Wait, was Usman born in America or Nigeria?
Usman represents Nigeria.
That's the thing. Like, dude, so I'm an Italian citizen.
He was born in Auchi, Nigeria.
Okay, there you go.
So truly.
Yeah. Who else we got?
Let's see. You have Alexander Volkanovski, which is like, he's Australian, but that's from some part of the Eastern Bloc, clearly.
Yeah.
Like his family was like shoveling logs to a gulag at some point, I'm sure.
Those genetics didn't just appear in Australia.
Yeah. Peter Yan's family is still currently, shoveling logs in a prison somewhere, I'm sure. And then you have Davidson Figueroa, which is an interesting, like the only Brazilian among the men, which Brazil used to like stack the championships, right?
I think the jiu-jitsu kind of has slowly taken a back seat. But then you've seen some other like kickboxing stars, like what's his face? The guy at 205, Thiago Santos. That dude's an animal. Like he could be a champion.
Shows like championship caliber. The fact that he fought like a 5-round fight after tearing his ACL and MCL in the first round with a bad kick.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, yeah, that's champion caliber. You know what I mean? That's what you want to see out of your fighters.
And then he was the corner of the Julia Stoliarenko and Yana Kunitskaya.
Yana Kunitskaya. That's his fiance. They're getting married, I think.
And then he trained with Kunitskaya, and during the whole fight, she was just hugging and mugging the other person because she was so used to that big body. It was so easy to control her.
She did amazing. Like, I thought that fight was really interesting because, like, you know, I don't like seeing muggings and blood sport, but it was interesting to see someone like get neutralized like the other chick was. So the other chick, 8 of her 9 wins came from armbar. So she's like clearly just a jiu-jitsu black belt, maybe some striking in the middle.
She tried to fall to the ground. She tried to grab her and take her down.
Yeah, the thing is, like, when you're facing that kind of clinch against the cage, right? The way I seen that get countered correctly is you have to be aggressive. You have to push against the cage. You have to turn around. You can't like passively drag someone to the ground when you're pinned up against the cage like that. And that's what she was trying to do the whole fight, and just getting mugged. I think as much as like Kunitskay's fighting style may have been a little boring, it's the other chick's fault for not like adapting to it and making her do something else.
Interesting. And it's like she put her in a position where she couldn't utilize any of her strats. And I think that was a good point where you said like you have to be aggressive, because I've seen so many people, they're like, oh, I'm in guard. This is a good position for me. Like I should be on top. This should be good for me. But given the skill differential with jiu-jitsu and like the arm bars and stuff, it completely makes sense to just negate that whole thing and just be aggressive.
Yeah. Like there was no for like 3/4 of that fight, she was just trying to do that like weird leg hook and drag her to the ground. It just wasn't working. Yeah. And I think that's like perfect strategy. If you were in a cage fight and you found something that your opponent couldn't handle, that's all I would do until they handled it, right?
Yeah.
So hats off to her. Yana Kunitskaya put on like a really good performance that fight, I think.
Mm-hmm. All right. Well,
then there's Benail Dariush, the spinning forearm.
Oh my God!
He came in heavy and just smacked his opponent unconscious.
Oh my God! All right. Well, that's most of what I wanted to talk about. I think we can go into predictions. So, do you want to do that now, or did you have anything else you wanted to discuss?
Do you want to talk about Paige Van Zandt signing to Bare Knuckle FC?
Dude, I heard she got a multi-million-dollar deal, which is crazy to me.
Okay, let's be honest, and I don't want to be, mean here. The people that are running Bare Knuckle FC are utterly insane. They're like in a cornfield in Wyoming, I think. Like there's only like one state that's going to allow them to do their thing.
Yeah. They just want to see a pretty girl get her face beaten.
I mean, hey, look, if that's what sells, that's what sells. I get it. Like, if you can sell on a name alone, that's all Paige Van Zandt's been doing. She's lost like 4 fights in a row.
Sorry.
Yeah, you go ahead.
It doesn't really make sense to me, because why not just get some like Lutway fighters, dude? Like those guys, they've conditioned their knuckles to a degree where they can punch someone almost fully and not break bones, or at least it'll take a while. But like if you're just an MMA fighter, like you're kind of shit out of luck. Like that, it's not going to be very entertaining. And all the fights I have seen have not been very entertaining. I don't really get the appeal of it.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's just like the raw, like monkey, like chimpanzee brain kind of thing, where people like it's very bloody, it's very like visceral, I guess. But yeah, I don't get it either. I agree. Like if you're gonna go that way, go to Lutway.
But it's not the blood for me. It's just not as entertaining. They can't throw as hard of punches, and like you're gonna end a lot of fights from cuts. Who wants to see fights ended by cuts?
Nobody, dude. That's why people like hated the BMF championship between Diaz and Masvidal.
When his eyeball was falling out.
He could still fight. He might win. Who knows?
What's crazy is it looked like that's when he was about to turn the tide.
Yeah, it looks like it was turning. And like, hey, I mean, you got to maintain your body if you're going to be an MMA fighter. You can't just be out there running marathons. Sometimes you got to have some surgery to get the scar tissue out of your face so you don't explode every time you get punched.
Supposedly he did have it fixed, so maybe that's a fight in the future. But it's a real shame that it happened.
A better doctor.
It was so anticlimactic.
I agree. It was just getting good.
I know, and then The Rock was there, like, fuck, man. Fuck.
Rock was pissed.
He was so pissed. He's like,
getting booed.
Damn it, this is my time to shine. What?
He was so not ready for it.
No, he put the belt around, everyone's booing. He was like, wait, what?
Yeah, he wanted to get out of there. Yeah, that's pretty much it. So I think Lethway is trying to come to the States, but they want to come to Florida and not Wyoming. So I think that's like kind of, and of course COVID has everything on pause, but that was the idea I heard. Is they were negotiating with the state of Florida because they didn't want to have to do it in the cornfield.
Mm-hmm. That's really funny. All right, so let's just
You
go
want to
for
start
the
off with the
let's
bottom
go
and go up?
let's go to the top 3 fights because I don't really know much about the others.
To be honest, I don't know either. I was looking at the prelim card, and it seems like very top heavy.
Yeah.
Top heavy night.
Yeah, so let's focus from the Dos Santos versus Rosenstrike. I'm going Rosenstrike. I'm going first round KO.
I think so. Yeah, Rosenstrike first or second round KO. I don't know. I don't see this fight going all the way. I mean, maybe Junior Dos Santos is an amazing fighter, but again, just considering the USADA, like the drop off in his speed and physicality ever since that happened, I think whatever he was on was helping a lot.
And also, Rosenstrike carries power into the third round. The way he was able to KO over him. The fact that he was able to bust up his lip the last second of the third round tells me he's like, it's almost like a Derek Lewis-esque. It's like you can never be safe. Like he might throw a punch and just KO.
I think that's why the heavyweight division is so exciting. Like that's why I like to see the heavy guys get tired and throw at each other.
Yeah, and the heavyweights, I think over the past few years have developed more than pretty much any other division. They actually have ground games now. You'll have solid wrestlers in there, and besides Ngannou, like the technique on the feet is pretty crazy.
Yeah, the only issue I think is it's not very deep. Like once you get past,
that's totally true.
Like the top 7, you're just running into fat guys, unfortunately.
Yeah, and you got like
Greg Hardy.
Yeah, the fat guys and Greg Hardy, the women beater. Okay, so Sugar O'Malley, you're gonna take him. It's hard not to take him. How do you take him? He's undefeated.
Okay, I have a hard time picking always because I feel like I can't be subjective because I want Sean to win because I like the marketing and the media and all the pods and like the weird, he's sponsored by a blunt wrap company and shit like that.
But this is amateur hour. We're allowed to do that. You gotta. The pros can talk whatever they want to talk about.
Yeah, absolutely. I think Sean O'Malley in the second round, some kind of like weird. I think he's going to do something similar to what he did to his last opponent, where he does like a really smooth fake into a punch. I think that seems to be his bread and butter for getting knockouts.
And not only that, he's so dynamic because every fight I've seen, he throws out crazy stuff before he's getting the read and getting the KO. So it's not like he's unwilling. It's not like he's waiting for the perfect moment like a Tyron Woodley. He's like, I'm just going to throw stuff and eventually I'm going to fake you out. You think I'm going to do something, boom, KO. So yeah.
I think Sean O'Malley is like what Roy Jones Jr. was in boxing or something like that. Just a martial arts computer, just calculating your moves, looking at you, trying to figure out what's going to work. Because when it does, like all of his knockouts, it's not like he has like bloody beat down knockouts like Glover versus Anthony Smith. No, they're beautiful. He snaps people unconscious. They just go to sleep. I think that's a higher level knockout than just bludgeoning somebody personally.
That's true, but once he gets to the top level, when guys actually have real solid chins, it's going to be tough. Like, you can't KO everyone. So we'll see what happens. But I think for now, he's definitely taking this fight.
Yeah, I think he's going to take this fight. I don't see him losing to anyone in at least before the top 5, I would say. I don't know if Marlon Vera is even ranked.
Yeah. So it said his weight was 145. Maybe he's coming down in weight. I don't know.
Okay. Yeah, could be. So,
okay. The biggest fight, though, Cormier versus Stipe. What are your thoughts and predictions?
Okay,
so tough. I know.
No, it's a tough decision, but I'm pretty I'm already pretty decided on this. I think Stipe is going to overcome. It's what I believe in him the most is what I've seen. It's like really difficult shit has come his way, like Francis, and then losing most of a fight to Daniel and still overcoming, right? Like I think he's got more in him that he's willing to sacrifice compared to DC, who's a little bit older. And even though he's willing to give more, I just don't know if he's going to be able to overcome if Stipe gets ahead of him. Does that make sense?
Yeah, totally. I pretty much agree, but something inside of me tells me I want Stipe to win. I want him to win more than I think he will win, if that makes sense. Like, I really want him to win, but having watched the fights, the first fight, Cormier was dominant most of the fight, even though it was very short. I get the eye poke, which sucks, but he was dominant. And the last fight, he was dominant for not only 3 rounds, 3.5 rounds. Like, if he was winning the 4th round. So I don't know if he got tired or lost body shots.
Dude, I remember thinking, at least my gut reaction when I saw that fight, is Daniel throwing this fight? Like, does that body shot hurt that much? Of course, I don't know. I've never been punched in the gut by a
Yeah.
giant firefighter, but you know,
When,
it,
so
it looked it looked fishy how fast he went down, didn't it?
it really did. It looked like it was like a sudden
Yeah,
thing, you know?
like I think maybe even like maybe he broke a rib. Maybe he got a really good shot in there and just like did some real damage, like what happened to Jose Aldo in his last fight when he fought Peter Yan.
Hmm.
Like he got hit in the rib and screamed and went down. Kept fighting, of course, champion, but those things do damage and they do like affect the fight.
Yeah. And you know what's so interesting? I remember, I think I said to Jenny, I said to whoever I was watching it with, I was like, when the corner said you should be doing this, and Cormier's like, no, no, no. I'm like, fuck, man, you should be listening. Like the corner, if you don't trust them, they shouldn't be in your corner. But these guys are
True.
literally, their job is to see the things that you can't see because you're fighting. You know what I mean? And then for him to not go with them with all the experience he had, it was just so weird to me. But in my head, it's because I think it's because I don't think he wants to wrestle as much as he used to. He wrestled in the first round. He picked him up and held him for 20 seconds. But I think he was like, fuck, I'm pretty tired.
I think that pickup like wore him out. I think that's why he had him in the air for so long. Because I remember Stipe commenting, he's like, he had me in the air for 2 minutes. I didn't know what to do.
Yeah, but he was like, what do I do? Because Stipe actually hooked himself on the leg of Cormier. So he couldn't just throw him down without like I don't know high level wrestling here, people, but it looked like he was kind of pinned.
Yeah, I think also what I see a lot of like wrestlers transitioning to MMA, I think they just like striking more. I think like unless you're a true sociopath, like some of these guys coming out of Russia, they like to stand up and bang and throw punches a lot more than they like to get down and like grind people, And I think I can understand why an older wrestler would want to go about that route too if he could.
It's more entertaining. You can end the fight quicker. It's less taxing on you. So yeah, I completely agree.
But yeah, I think Stipe is going to win it. And any part of me that thinks Stipe is going to lose, I feel like is just he's going to like use that as fuel to overcome. He doesn't seem like a quitter to me in any capacity. So unless he gets put out by something, yeah, I see Stipe overcoming this one way or another.
Part of it's, dude, he's taking so much damage. Like over his career, he's taken so much damage. And at some point that hits you. I don't know if that's this fight or not, but he has had his head like snapped back so many times. I don't think you can have that forever. And this year off may have made a big difference. But
it made a big difference last time,
Yeah, but then if you look at someone like Weidman, he got his face blown off. And I know it's apples and oranges, but Weidman was only 33. So it can happen whenever.
Yeah, but I've in all of Weidman's fights I've seen, I haven't seen him like the overcoming being down is like something I think is championship caliber. Like, you're not always going to be winning a fight, no matter how good you are. Bad stuff's going to happen.
Like Gaslam Adesanya, that was really telling.
Yeah, his blips got busted up. He took a lot of damage, and Israel kept on fighting. So I think anything like that, or even like Derek Lewis and Yair Rozenstruik, throwing until the last minute and winning their fights in the last second. Like, I think that tells a lot about a fighter's like drive to do this. And I think Stipe has like an exceptional amount of whatever that thing is.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he's
Daniel's taking a lot of damage too. Like, I know his record's fantastic, but those losses to John Jones were not like, like those were wars, and they ended in knockouts. I'm pretty sure, right? And that's never good.
They should call Stipe Lionheart. He's the real Lionheart.
It's hard not to give Anthony Smith like credence for his nickname after
my teeth.
And not stopping.
The coach is like, it's fine, keep going.
Yeah, I need you to throw more like front kicks or something. I was like, I need my teeth back, man.
Where's the flying knee?
Okay, you want to talk about that fight for a second? Because I think that's one of the most like interesting fights in, I think, some recent history. It was a fight that went so far that I didn't enjoy it. Like, it was fun up until a certain point, and then you just felt like awful watching him get beaten over and over and over.
But it was funny because Anthony Smith was winning the first 2 rounds solidly, like not even
So
close.
What I think it was is, and I think the commentators talked about this.
They did, yeah.
Like, yeah, you can hear all the coaches, you hear all the commands, and it felt like Anthony Smith's coaches were like playing a video game with him, just mashing buttons, like throw every move, and then at a certain point, he just got burned out.
But I honestly don't feel like it's the coach's fault. You're not supposed to throw everything your coaches tell you. You're supposed to go, all right, maybe I should be looking for a jab. I'm not going to do a jab. I'm going to look for it.
I think it was like the newness of the situation. That was both of their first times fighting in an empty arena. Like,
That's true.
I don't know if that's true in their like earlier fights, but in the UFC level kind of fights, you get used to things like ring noise and only being able to really communicate between rounds with your coaches and stuff. Now, like, I think it was just the newness of the situation that got in between their communication. I'm not saying his coach is a bad coach or anything's a bad fighter at all, but I think that miscommunication or over communication did some damage to him.
Yeah, he totally would have won the fight too if he had paced it out. He's simply a better fighter.
Yeah, I think I agree. I mean, but the thing with Glover, you have to remember, can't even call him more of a veteran. Anthony Smith's been like in 100 fights.
Yeah. Talk about brain damage. I don't know how he's going to do at the commentator desk. Like, what are they going to do with all these fighters that get CTE and after like 5 years on the desk, they're just like muttering just gibberish? I'm sure the NFL has already done something like that.
Yeah. Oh man. Like, if you want to see a CTE like expose, watch any sort of Hall of Fame induction for the NFL. They just bring in drooling idiots, and it's not their fault at all.
They wheel them out.
Yeah. Like I heard an offensive lineman get inducted to the Hall of Fame. He just was like, I thank my wife and sadly after 22 or 27 years of marriage, just completely hazy. Had no idea. So I think they're picking fighters that like. Hopefully have like good speaking skills. Hopefully they're interviewing them at least, trying to see like, hey, read this script. Let's see how you go to commercial break or something.
I really don't like Dominic on the desk. I don't think he's very good.
I don't.
As a caster, I mean, I don't think he's a great caster.
I think Dom was an okay caster. I got some distaste for him after his like bit of complaining when he lost to Anthony Cejudo.
Yeah.
Where he said, like, I told the referee to, like, let me fight this out. And in my mind, it was the referee's job. The referee has two jobs: to keep the fighter safe, number one, and to keep the fight fair. So you're asking him to allow you to be unsafe, to be compromised more than he normally would in order to give you an unfair advantage. I think that's completely, like, out of line to even, like, ask a referee or expect that from them,
Yeah.
So I think it was a weird complaining excuse. Do you know who I don't like behind the desk for some reason? Michael Bisping. Now, I love listening to Michael Bisping talk. The accent is beautiful, and he's hilarious. He interjects too much of his own opinion into the fight. I think he's like, oh, he should have done this. He should do this. I would do this. Whereas, like, I think a good commentator will expand on the style that fighter's trying to produce rather than, like, I don't know, openly critique people and, like, a kind of thing.
I think that started with Joe Rogan, and I think a lot of people could try to copy him because they're like, oh, he was the first big UFC commentator. I have to be like that. But he's very unique in his personality, and you shouldn't be copying him. He's mostly color. Like he gives some details, but he'll throw in, like you said, a lot of opinions and stuff like that. I don't think most commentators should do that. I don't think it's very helpful. I don't think it's very good for the viewing experience. I think Joe Rogan's just such a good and known name that people have listened to him for so long, they just like hearing his voice more.
Also keep in mind, Joe Rogan's an excellent orator. He has thousands of hours of speaking. Like,
he's a professional speaker.
Yeah. So, and also like you said, they're color commentators. Like they should be explaining the techniques and the ideas that these guys are trying to convey, rather than I think critiquing on it. Like if someone keeps kicking someone in the dick, like tell him not to do that. Did you see that, by the way, the last fight?
They go, ooh! Every time though, they like feel it. They cringe. And I'm like, I get that, but
Was it Bellator? I think it was Bellator.
I don't know.
This last weekend had this crazy Russian fighter do like 3 illegal moves within like 2 minutes. Like he kicked to the dick twice, and then he did an illegal head, like a knee to the head.
But that's so stupid. Like, did he get a point off or something?
No, he got disqualified. It was like the first time I saw like actual. Like, it was really bad. It was actually. Did he even get disqualified? No, he got a point off and lost the decision because of the points, which is stupid. I think you shouldn't let him keep fighting after kneeing someone in the head like that.
Yeah. I think the point thing's a little silly because taking a point away, sure, it makes a big difference. But like, if you're compromising the other guy and can knock him out or choke him out, does it really matter if you point taken away? That's not a real penalty.
A lot of these guys, like their big asset in fighting is their endurance and their ability to like drag things out. And putting them in 3-round fights where they just like start warming up in some way and start turning the fight around in the third. Like if that fight had gone to a 4th and 5th round, they probably would have won, but it doesn't matter.
Mhm.
So that's another thing I don't disagree with. Pick a fight length. You know what I mean? Why 3 and then 5 for championships and main events? It seems so arbitrary.
It
Like
does
tell
to
these
me.
guys like how they should train.
Yeah, I agree with that. I personally think you should, regardless of what kind of fight it is, maybe you could do a slight variance, but 5 rounds, 3-minute rounds. Maybe championship fights are 7 rounds, but I like the more rounds. I don't like when a guy's being laid on top of for 4 or 5 minutes. I get you're working to something, but most of the time you just end up hugging him to the end of the fight, trying to get out of the round. Why don't we just
Right.
make it so you have to stand up every 3 minutes? That's
I
what
think
boxing rounds are,
that's what
three
Muay Thai
minutes.
does. Muay Thai is 3-minute rounds and 2-minute rests.
Yeah, and that's what boxing
Muay
is.
Thai, they just want people beating the shit out of each other. You know?
Yeah.
I think.
Dude, the whole fighting style is literally like you're in a box. You're straight up like you're not boxing. You're not moving, dip. No, you're like I'm gonna take punches, but I'm gonna punch you too. You know. So
I mean, Muay Thai is fantastic.
it
I
is.
like your idea of like the more rounds. You know, something I did like though. I mean, I want to give. I think this was a great thing in Pride Days was the marathon round where they do the first round was 10 minutes long. So like if you want to do some like jujitsu and wrestling stuff, that's your time, right? I think like there should be more variance to it. Like the sport is too interesting to like standardize and cookie cut to like the degree that it is. Like even look at the cage, right? So many fighters utilize the cage in its various ways, like whether it's to pin someone up against you or you use the cage to not get taken down. Like how much different would a different like would ropes be versus like what have you seen what combat karate does? They put you
No,
in like a pit. But
I
it's
was
a
about
pit
to
with like
say
45-degree angle walls. And like
we
so you can like lay on the walls kind of and roll and shit. I think that's super fascinating. I want to see like what develops out of forcing people to fight in that.
I'm on like a death pit, like a coliseum that just leads to a small circle in the middle. And then you have people surrounding it, and everyone's just chanting. Oh my god!
Yeah. Or like I think it was on a Rogan episode where they talked about how they want to like spin the wheel every time you fight to figure out your setting. Or say we're fighting on a football field.
Yeah,
Next fight's in an elevator.
yeah. You know, in tennis, they have different terrain. They'll have like clay courts,
Right, yeah.
grass courts. Like imagine you have like a rocky MMA. I don't know. People are gonna break their faces.
Look, we have to understand this is a violent sport. Like we can try to make it as safe as we can, but to a certain point, like you know,
how about like some obstacles, like an American Ninja Warrior, like obstacles just in the cage.
oh my god, like wipe out like the thing that spins,
Yeah.
just like a helicopter blade, like with pads at the top.
Or how about we have a circle in the air held up by a pole, and if you fall off, you fall into water. Like there is no cage. If you get, it's like a Soul Calibur that you get ring out if you get hit off the edge.
Oh my god, dude, that'd be amazing. Fight
That
on like
would.
a platform over water.
Yeah, it's like.
And
Have you seen
know what
American
see?
Gladiator?
Yeah, with like the pontoons and the giant Q-tips.
Yeah, similar.
No, I think like if they fought on like a raised platform with like who had ring out, the old sports coming in, sumo wrestlers. That's the next
my
thing to
god.
just ring out people.
It's the meta. You have a Khabib that's just 500 pounds. I smash.
That's another thing I want, by the way. I want there to be a super heavyweight. Just open it up.
Totally.
Yeah, like well, get some freaks in there. Who cares?
Like they're like, oh, there's not enough depth. But like you said, the heavyweight division doesn't have enough depth. We just need 10. We're in America. You're telling me we can't find 10 guys over 300 pounds that wouldn't beat the shit out of each other? Even if they're
go to Norway, get the Mountains family, drag them over here, make them fight. I'm sure they'd love it.
The first iteration does not have to be good. Over time, you'll get athletes that are like, I don't want to cut. I'm Derek Lewis. I want to be 290. I don't want to be 265. So I'll fight in that division.
Maybe he'd be vicious at 290. 290 throwing head kicks.
Ngannou doesn't have body fat and he has to cut to 265. Imagine Ngannou 300 pounds.
Oh my god, dude. Oh yeah. See, that's what
my
I want.
Gandu.
I want like circus fights. I want to see that. I want to see more like weird celebrity mashups. I want to see like Twitter celebrities fighting in the UFC. Yeah. Like bring Jake Paul versus someone into the UFC. That's what I want to see. Like
I want to see him versus like a legit. This is an idea I had. Literally celebrity cage matches. Like maybe you stop it. Maybe you stop it a little earlier. Maybe it's like, all right, they're being ground and pounded. We should end this pretty quick. Mm-hmm. But like to have celebrities beating the shit out of each other, especially to solve like Twitter disputes, just like random drama bullshit that like shouldn't matter at all, and you guys are fighting in a cage.
Or like game show style, like you've seen like Dancing with the Stars. Can you imagine like fighting with the stars? You know what I mean?
That's a good idea.
They get assigned like a coach, another UFC fighter, teaches them how to fight. and every week they like match up and knock some people off.
And they could have like headgear and shit.
Sure,
I get they don't want
you want.
cauliflower ear. I get some of the stuff, but
Yeah, sure, but yeah, that's what I want to see. I want like carnival matches. I want to see super interesting, goofy stuff. Like why not? Like, do you know ONE FC?
Yeah,
they're I think I can't remember if they're Chinese or whatever, but they're like a huge Asian like UFC competitor.
Yeah.
And the reason they're so interesting is because they have not just mixed martial arts; they have all martial arts. So they'll do like a kickboxing match against like a weird traditional professional Japanese professional wrestling like theater match, then like MMA fighting, like kickboxing, all sorts of stuff mixed up all throughout the card. And I think that's like, I don't know, maybe that's a better format in a way, like show people some real interesting high level stuff like all across the board.
I think it's Singapore. I think that's where they'll.
Could be. You're right. I think it is Singapore too.
So the problem with being an established sport is we have like rankings, and then people are going to get all upset about that. But you have to remember, in like Pride, some of the best fights I've ever seen have just been random Japanese one-off fights that didn't mean anything to rankings, but they were just incredibly beautiful because of how silly they were in some way.
Yeah, giant Japanese guys fighting the overweight American.
Like the steroid thing shouldn't in an exhibition match or like a one-off match. There should be no kinds of testing. You should be on all of the juice you can find. Literally everything, every compound you can find should be in your body. That's what I want to see.
Dude, I agree. My issue is never with steroids. It's the issue. If you sign an agreement where steroids are fine to use in a fight, use them in the fight. If you sign an agreement where they're banned, don't try to cheat. You know what I mean? As long as you're openly disclosing what's going on, like I have no issue with like chemical enhancements. I want circus fights. I want 400-pound muscle warriors to go in there and kill each other.
Mm-hmm.
Like, and we can do it in Dubai if people might die. Who knows? They don't care there.
Yeah.
All
right. Well, sorry. No,
I was done.
Yeah, I was done too. I was just actually going to wrap it up. But thank you, everyone that's listened. This is the first edition of the Amateur Hour podcast. I hope you all enjoyed. We will be back here weekly, possibly bi-weekly, depending on how much interest we get. So
we should start watching Bellator fights.
Yeah,
like Bellator is getting very, very interesting.
Yeah, they just got some wrestler. What was his name?
Oh, I think I know who you mean. Yeah. Like they had an amazing. I think they're lightweight. Ben Henderson lost in amazing fashion to an up-and-coming lightweight.
Yeah.
They've got
the guy that beat Johnny Hendricks. No, not Johnny Hendricks. Johnny Walker. The guy that beat Johnny Walker.
Oh, yeah. He's a Muay Thai guy. I can't remember his name. Khalil Roundtree. No. Corey Anderson.
Yeah. So he just got signed to Bellator. He just got signed to Bellator. He was a top 5 in UFC, which is crazy. They had some contract dispute.
He lost to someone, and then he got humbled really badly. I can't remember who put him away though. Yeah, we can look it up really quick. He was amazing though. Like he has the pedigree that I really like to see. He's a wrestler. He's got that crazy wrestler mindset. He's from a weird rural blue collar area, so he's got that come back from adversity.
He's very down to earth,
and he's got an outstanding physique. If you just look at him, right? Like he looks like what I expect a professional athlete to look like, and a lot of these guys I unfortunately can't give them that.
Like a Ben Askren.
He lost to Jan Blachowicz or whatever. Jan's a damn good fighter.
Yeah, I honestly underrated Jan for a while until that fight. I had actually seen him before.
It's hard to, man. His name is Jan.
Yeah, but I still think he gets smashed by John Jones if they did fight.
Yeah, I don't think he has the level. I think what's proven with John Jones is you need an exceptional level of aggression to handle him. Like Thiago Santos and Dominic Reyes just advanced on him, wasn't afraid of him. I think if you're going to try to do any of the fancier stuff that Jan's done, I don't know if it's going to work well, but who knows? John Jones in a very interesting position right now. Is he still the best? Is he not? He hasn't shown too much in his last couple of fights. He's dealing with weird personal stuff because he's a lunatic.
If he retires today, he's going to be known as one of the top 5 greatest of all time.
I think he certainly earned it.
Personally. I mean, if you go undefeated for a decade, even with the steroids, let's be real here.
And his defeat and his one loss is
it's
like a weird it's like a weird upkick disqualification or something.
No, it was an elbow, 12-6 elbow.
The 12-6 elbow.
Which is
another it's an ambiguous rule.
I haven't seen in the past X number of years that be enforced. Like, I don't know why it's still a rule.
I heard okay, so I see it in weird like places. Like 2 UFC fights ago, there was a fighter, he was getting taken down, so getting carried back to the cage. So he just pinned up against the cage, just hammering elbows down on the guy's head. Which, it's awesome. Looks like that works to get out of the takedown, but the referee didn't say anything. But I saw like one during like a ground and pound the last fight, and the referee was like, "Yo, no, 12-6, watch that." So maybe it's even up to the flavor of the referee.
So much of it is, but I mean, honestly, there's not much you can do about that. We don't have. I think one day we're gonna have like sensors on the people, and there's gonna be like something that goes off when they're unable to continue fighting or something. So
or like a that you can usually tell with the eyes is what the referees try to do. Like if you like get hit and you fall down, the referees try to see what you're looking at. If you're like looking at your opponent, like still engaged, you're fine. But if you're like off in the distance, like you're probably knocked out. So it could be like an eye, like a gaze monitor through cameras or something. It doesn't have to be like in or on the body, I bet.
And then you see some guys that just want to give up. They're not actually done. They're like, just fucking
yeah.
pound me away, and then that's it.
Yeah, dude. And
I understand it, dude. I understand it. You don't want to tap. You're looked at as a pussy. If you tap and you're not being choked out or KO'd, you're.
Yeah, like those guys that the Khabib 2.0, the second guy he smashed. Like he just looked miserable, man.
Yeah.
He was getting pummeled for like 4 minutes.
But what do? You're known forever as the guy that quit. Who?
Dude, I think Shogun tapped from strikes.
Wow.
Against John Jones when he lost the championship. When John Jones first won the championship. I
don't think I've seen the full fight.
So I think at the very end, and let me see, I'm gonna pull a little video clip to see if I can find it. He like at the very end of the fight, I remember Shogun falls to the ground and taps. Like he just doesn't want it anymore. Is this it? Yeah, here. I'm watching it right now. He's getting beat. Yep. He taps at the very end of the thing. Like he just falls to his knees and taps.
Wow.
So, I mean, champions do it.
Yeah. All right. Well, awesome. I feel like that was a very productive podcast. The Amateur Hour MMA podcast. I think that's a solid name. We'll see if that continues moving forward.
There's a lot of like real interesting fights coming up. A lot of interesting engagements. So we'll probably have a good bit of content to talk about. And
we could actually do a co-live stream with the fights if we want.
Can we do what they do on like a Rogan where you have like a little timer or something?
Fight companion.
Have like one of our laptops up in like the corner here so you can just see the time.
Yeah. So again, for those interested, please let us know if you want to hear that in the comments section, or you can email backofthemob@gmail.com and we'll take your comments to heart. And if you want to see a live stream, we'll be happy to co-stream with you guys and hang out. So thank you everyone for listening. Do you have any final thoughts, Cisco?
Oh man, nothing we haven't covered. I'm excited to see the fights this weekend. I think I got Peter to agree to watch with us, so we might have that.
Oh, that's awesome. Okay, great. Well, I hope everyone has a great day, and we'll see you this weekend. Later.
Bye, everyone.